Welcome to the Horror of Netflix, where we review the horror offerings of that great behemoth of streaming movies, Netflix.
Once, and I believe to an extent still, DVD Blu-ray rental.
Yeah, and they still do that. So in this week's show, we are talking about The Mist, which is an adaptation of a Stephen King short story, and directed by
Frank Darabont.
I nearly got that wrong. So what did you make of this film?
Liked it.
You liked it. Goodbye, everyone. The Mist follows the main character, which is slightly different, played by Tom Jane, slightly different from other Stephen King stories. Most Stephen King stories have the main protagonist being a writer. In this case, he is an illustrator, so you can see how he shifted there. And we actually see, at the start of the film, we see pictures. Do we not see a picture of the Thing?
Yes, he's working on various things. I believe he's working on a painting from a Stephen King series.
Dark Towers.
Dark Tower series. There's also the Thing poster in the background and a couple other ones as well. So he hand paints movie posters.
Some of the posters are incredible. But anyway, so as per a lot of Stephen King stories, he's a sort of creative person. Anyway, he ends up being caught up in this, what seems like an apocalyptic event within the small town that he lives, where this mist rolls in. He gets caught with his child.
Sorry.
With his what?
His pants down?
With his he gets caught with his pants down.
With his child.
And sprays mist. So he gets caught by this mist. He gets thrust into this supermarket where loads of the townsfolk gather, and the mist really constrains their movement. They can't get out of the supermarket, but there is something in the mist which kills anyone who tries to escape. So the rest of the film is really them trying to figure out how to barricade themselves into the supermarket. Should they try and escape, get to the cars out in the car park? Where has this mist come from? Where have these creatures come from? And most interestingly, it's a study of religion and extremism as factions start to pair off with
and
the
people
in the
under
supermarket.
how people cope under thing in this kind of complete kind of reversal back to kind of a previous state, the flight or fight or flight instinct comes in.
Very Lord of the Flies.
Oh yeah, completely. One thing I would actually say, I know you'd already seen this, but this is actually a recommendation from Jackie Boy. He told us to watch it.
I said that.
And he did point out that it's got one of the bleakest endings ever, and it does have an exceptionally bleak ending.
It does, which interestingly, Frank Darabont, when he
added it in, didn't he? He wasn't part of the story.
It's the ending is kind of implied as a possibility in the Stephen King story, but Frank Darabont, when he was getting the funding, I believe, to make The Mist, he said, "This is something I will not compromise on.
Yeah.
This is the ending." The interesting thing about The Mist as well is that
we compromised on The Walking Dead.
It was originally supposed to be shot in black and white.
I was just going to make a thing of that.
On you go.
No, it's you told me it.
No, you go. It was originally shot in black and white. Callum said, well, it was meant to, but they released the film in a full colour cut, but that sounds like a haircut, but they also allow, on the DVD, you can get the black and white.
Well, the Netflix version is a colour version, and you can almost feel that it probably was shot for black and white because it doesn't look very nice in colour. There's a lot of lighting and the saturation is very rich, and you kind of watch it and maybe I watch it and think that way. Maybe other people just watch and just go, other people just watch and go, it's just a fucking film. What's this guy talking about? But from the way I was watching it, it didn't feel natural in colour, and I could tell that probably an immediate transfer to black and white probably would have done it. But then again, if you wanted it to be in black and white, why didn't you shoot it in black and white? But then again, it might be shot digitally. But then again, they might not.
You're right. Callum, you're right.
I mean, I look feedback. Like then again, they might not have been given the money to make it had they said we want to make a black and white movie.
The interesting thing about it being black and white is that Darabont essentially, it feels like he tried to make something with a B-movie aesthetic, that's very much kind of a monster movie in some ways. And also we talked about this as well, about the CG effects.
Yeah, that was my biggest issue with it. Do you not wish this film had practical, not like exclusively practical effects, because for the large part, some of it where you'd be like, Fuck, that's a big model. But do you not think that it would have benefited from a bit more practical effects, because their immediate response is CGI, and I can't help but think that it was maybe budgetary again, and they had a small budget for the effects, and they thought, right, we'll shoot it this way, and later on we can add in some passable CGI. I would say at its best it's passable. There wasn't really any points where I looked at that and went, that's convincing. You know, there's some bits of it that could have been legit.
Yeah,
Too legit to quit.
I mean, I don't know if it's true, but one of the rumours or claims about the film is that the reason a lot of the CG looks like it could have done with a couple of extra passes is that when it's viewed as the black and white film,
yeah, so it looks good.
That either it looks good or it has almost a hokey dynamic to it that is what Frank Darabont was going for. But do you not think that's a bit of a strange idea to have something as bleak as this but within a B movie?
You know, I don't know, that maybe that's what catches people off guard though. You know, they think it's going to be the classic ending where, not that everyone doesn't get away, everyone gets away at the end. But you know, I can see that from the black and white. I mean, black and white is a very forgiving thing. The first thing people do when they fuck up a film that they made in colour is they turn it to black and white, because it's really forgiving, because if you've got the skin tone wrong or anything, it doesn't matter. Black and white saves the day. And I can imagine that with something like a complex CGI effect, particularly when you're doing a creature with skin and various skin, you know, there's going to be shadows, there's going to be various range tones. You'd have to have like the colour gradation in it, and that is a lot more work, more layers. Stick it to black and white, that's going to be a lot less definable, and I think you would get away with it as well. And the CGI, I think there was a lot of CGI blood from memory.
Yeah.
I say from memory, I watched it quite recently, but I've watched a lot of movies recently.
I think that some of the actors, some of the performances are brilliant. Tom Jane's excellent.
Yep. Son really annoys me.
Does he?
Yeah. I kind of hate whiny kids in movies. It's the same reason why one of the things I hated the most about The Road. No, I don't. Sorry. Why would they be in my room?
No, I don't mean it that way.
But yeah, that's one of the main reasons I liked The Road, but I had issues with The Road was the sun in it.
Another bleak film.
Yeah, and I just kind of hoped it was like, maybe if the sun got caught, that would be alright. I wouldn't mind. But yeah, I mean, there's also, for anyone that is a fan of the horror, The Walking Dead, there's a lot of, like, half the cast in this movie ultimately ended up in The Walking Dead.
Yeah, I mean, it very much feels that way. It very much feels like a sort of proto Walking Dead in terms of there's kind of the suggestion of survival. What are people going to do in the face of this terrible evil that's surrounding them? 2 words.
You're just watching the movie, right? He goes to the supermarket and all of a sudden, Toby Jones.
Toby Jones. I was about to say he. That's what I'm saying. The performances. Toby Jones is excellent.
And he's the badass in the movie, pretty much.
Yeah, and also do you know the name of the actress that plays basically the antagonist?
The blonde?
Who's the religious zealot?
Oh no, I can't remember her name.
She's really good.
She's good, yeah.
I mean, she does play it from a sort of histrionic perspective.
Yeah, proper.
But it's, I mean, it is out there, but I think some people maybe criticise it.
It's like witch burning grade.
Yeah, totally.
Witchfinder General.
But she is good, and I think as well in those situations, maybe there's a feeling sometimes that people turn a little bit too quickly.
Also, I think that setting as well helps that as well. I imagine a lot of those people were quite religious to begin with.
Yeah.
So she just mixed it up.
In this sort of small town. I mean, Stephen King does small town horror better than anyone, really.
Yeah. I mean, if it was in a modern city centre Starbucks with all these enlightened modern people, it probably wouldn't have happened the same.
I'm not convinced.
That's like gathering round trying to get a spark from their MacBook. That's got a new story on it. But
I think Frank Darabont is an excellent director, and I think the film, in terms of horror and especially tension, there's a lot of suspense in this film. I think it really works.
Simultaneously a very good tribute to classic B movies, but also an enjoyable, take on it.
You're saying classic B movies aren't enjoyable? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, I love classic B movies.
Sorry.
I love the classic B movies. There's a lot of B movies I don't like. But I think it's simultaneously a nice tribute to the old movies, but also stands Oh, sorry. Sounds quite
You
well.
okay?
I was so passionate about the movie, it wanted to come up and express itself. Yeah, a burp. You can't go on to me. You've just had 10 minutes clearing
I know we
hiccups.
couldn't film this because I was hiccuping for about 10 minutes.
But yeah,
Well,
really?
Callum thinks, I would just like to say that I would recommend The Mist.
Yeah.
I would especially recommend the fact that Starkiller is in it as well, which sort of threw me a little bit when I first watched the
Oh,
film.
aye, the guy from Force Unleashed.
Yeah,
He,
it's him.
do you know what? If you see that game, when you see him in real life, he doesn't look real.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
He looks weird. He's a strange guy.
Yeah.
And I feel a bit bad for him. He doesn't. He has a bit of a hard paper around the film. But my biggest issue is probably got to be the effects. I think if they'd had used some more schlocky B-movie effects, I would have had a lot more love for the film. I do really enjoy it, but it seems to get a bit of a panning.
I'm
from
surprised at
people.
that. I'm surprised at that because
I think a lot of people took it though as a serious movie, and it is a
it's the
serious movie.
I
But
think it's the conclusion. I will say that personally, as much as in some of the stories that I write, things go badly at the end. I think there's a feeling in The Mist that it's not handled well. What happens at the end, because there was still room for things to happen. I can't really say much without ruining it, but it feels like the ending is underdeveloped and it sort of comes out of nowhere, and it feels
it's
as
a
if
bit
there's
drastic.
there's not a lot of justification for it, in my opinion. I'm thinking about it realistically, being in that situation.
Yeah,
I think I would have
kept the bullets for yourself.
Yes. So we've ruined this film for you now.
No.
But what I would say is that I think it's a film that's got plenty of tension in it. It's got great performances. It's got a good plot, and definitely
Really liked it.
worth a watch. And there was something else that I was thinking about it, and as I was talking, I thought, that's a good point, Michael, and now it's gone.
Probably wasn't.
No, it probably wasn't. It was
Cool.
probably...
So hopefully you've enjoyed that. Of course.
Oh, I remember.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
One of the things about The Mist, that it reminds me of Tremors. But Tremors...
Yeah,
the
you
film-
see Kevin Bacon's face.
The
in the
Tremors... I know, it's Kevin Bacon that's in The Mist. Tremors shows you a B-movie aesthetic, but with the sort of cosy horror element, and it's light-hearted, and I think one of the reasons that people criticise The Mist is that it's doing a similar thing. It's in a small town, there's this outside threat, it's a monster film, but it handles it in a much more serious, drastic way, and I think maybe what people wanted is, I'm not saying people watched The Mist and went, oh, I thought we were getting something like Tremors, I'm not saying that, but I think people felt that maybe there would have been something more upbeat about it, because The Mist really says some pretty and damning things about humanity.
Yeah, don't watch it if you're like depressed or anything.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
One thing I would quickly say before we wrap up is that it's very reminiscent of old B movies in the sense that the military has a big connection to it, which was always the first thing you knew. And in movies like Super 8, you know, like Super 8 is kind of like a very much a kind of harking back to the classic thing. The first thing where you know something's going wrong is the army turns up, properly. You know,
but it uses like that's a great point, but also it's using science as well. It's science and the military, and very much
Military
in
science.
a military science in a Howard Hawks kind of way.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good movie. I think it could have been superb, but it takes a couple of turns that I have a little problem with it, but it's definitely worth a watch.
If each one of these fingers was a star, how many stars would it get? Fold in the fingers that you don't think. Just do it.
This
Just
is
for the
weird.
good. I'd 4. Half. 3.5.
3.5.
3.5
Weird.
stars.
Sorry.
3.5 stars. I've still got them.
Check out the Facebook page and all that good stuff down below, and we will see you next time on the horror of Netflix.
Peace out.